I just heard that still small voice deep inside of me that said, Gina, your body is dying. And I walked out of the bathroom and he just took one look at me and he knew I'm about to lose my wife.
You took one look at her. What did you see?
Well, I saw death in her eyes. I saw her dying.
They thought death would steal Chuck away and bury everything with him. But tonight, I can't stay silent anymore. From the man who survived 6 world karate titles, battled Bruce Lee on screen, and became an internet legend, to the sudden collapse in paradise. Just days after his 86th birthday, Chuck Norris was gone. The world was told it was natural causes. The family begged for privacy. But in part 1, we heard Gina's first raw confession and his chilling last whisper, they never let go. Tonight, from deep inside the grieving family, Gina breaks her silence once again. She's revealing never-before-told personal secrets, the real story of their 28-year marriage, the terrifying nights Chuck stayed awake in fear, and shocking new evidence that proves his death was no accident. If you thought part 1 shocked you, this part 2 is going to destroy you. The real cause of death is darker than you think. This is Hollywood Files, and the fight for the truth has only just begun. They thought they could erase him, but they were wrong. If you want the full uncensored truth, subscribe to our channel, like this video right now, and turn on notifications. Don't miss a single second, because what Gina reveals next will change everything you thought you knew about Chuck Norris's death. Chapter 1. The private life they built. Before death took it all. Before the machines flatlined in that sterile Hawaiian hospital room, before the world heard the news on March 19, 2026, Chuck and Gina Norris lived a love story that looked almost too perfect from the outside. It started back in 1997 in Dallas. Chuck was already a legend at 57, still hitting the gym every single morning like clockwork, his body carved from decades of discipline. He was on a dinner date with another woman when he first saw Gina O'Kelly, a stunning model with a quiet strength that stopped him cold. Something shifted in him that night. The tough guy who didn't flinch in fight scenes found himself completely drawn to her. Within a year, on November 28, 1998, they stood together and said, I do, in a private ceremony filled with faith and family. From that day forward, their marriage became Gina's rock and Chuck's safe harbor. For 28 years, they rarely raised their voices in front of the kids. Chuck would look at Gina across the room and call her my rock, with that deep, steady voice of his. She was the one who grounded the man the whole world thought was unbreakable. While fans saw the roundhouse kicks and the Walker Texas Ranger badge, Gina saw the man who came home every night, took off his boots, and asked about her day like she was the only person who mattered. In 2001, their world got even brighter when the twins arrived on August 30th, Dakota Allen and Danny Lee Kelly. Chuck was already in his 60s, but becoming a father again at that age lit a fire in him. From the time the twins were tiny, he was hands-on in a way most people never saw. He'd teach them basic stances before they could even walk properly. By the time they were 3 years old, Chuck had them gently throwing punches and kicks in the backyard, laughing as their little arms wobbled. Every night, no matter how late he got in from training or meetings, he would carry them to bed, one in each arm, and read them stories or just hold them close until they fell asleep against his chest. Those quiet moments, the smell of baby shampoo mixed with Chuck's aftershave, the sound of his low voice humming old hymns, that was the real Chuck Norris. Not the meme, not the action hero, just a dad who loved his kids with everything he had. As the years passed, they found their paradise on the Garden Isle of Kauai, Hawaii. They bought a beautiful home on the North Shore with private beach access and an infinity pool overlooking the endless Pacific. This became their escape from Hollywood noise. Every single morning followed the same beautiful rhythm. Chuck would rise at 5:30 a.m., slip quietly out of bed so he wouldn't wake Gina, and head to his private training area. You could picture him there, still built like a fortress at 86, shadow boxing under the rising Hawaiian sun, sweat glistening on his shoulders as palm trees swayed in the trade winds. His kicks still had that legendary snap, even if they came a little slower than they used to. By the time he finished, Gina would already be in the kitchen, pouring his coffee, black, no sugar, just the way he liked it. She'd carry 2 mugs out to the wide wooden porch, and they'd sit side by side watching the ocean catch the first light of day. Sometimes they barely spoke. They didn't need to. Chuck would reach over and take her hand, his rough, calloused fingers wrapping gently around hers. They'd talk about the twins, about faith, about simple plans for the day. The salt air, the sound of waves crashing on black lava rocks, the smell of plumeria blooming nearby. It painted the kind of peaceful life most people only dream about. In those moments, Chuck wasn't the 6-time world champion or the internet's immortal meme lord. He was just a husband deeply in love with his wife, grateful for the quiet years they had carved out together. But behind those golden mornings and warm family nights, shadows were already creeping in. Gina would later describe how Chuck started changing in small ways that only she noticed. After the kids went to bed or when the house grew still, he would disappear into his study for hours. You can almost see it now, the dim lamp casting long shadows across the room, Chuck sitting at his wooden desk with that small black notebook open in front of him. He'd write carefully, dates and names and connections, his face tight with worry. Sometimes Gina would wake up in the middle of the night and find the bed empty. She'd walk down the hallway and hear him whispering to himself in the darkness, "They still haven't let go. They're not finished yet." Those words chilled her every time. The man who once laughed off death in 1,000 memes was now carrying a weight he wouldn't fully share, even with the woman he called his rock. He protected her from the details, saying it was safer that way. But Gina could feel it. The sleepless nights, the sudden tension when his phone rang late, the way his eyes would scan the horizon a little longer than usual when they sat on that porch. Then just 11 days after Chuck turned 86, after he had posted another video of himself training, still joking, "I don't age, I level up," death came crashing in without warning. It ripped through their perfect morning routine like a storm no one saw coming. One moment he was laughing on the phone, strong and full of life. Hours later, everything they had built together was shattered. No one outside their closest circle could have imagined it. The world still pictured Chuck Norris as the guy who could roundhouse kick death itself. Friends and fans believed he would live forever. But on that quiet island paradise they loved so much, the unbreakable man was taken. The happy mornings on the porch, the bedtime stories with the twins, the gentle way he held Gina's hand while watching the sunrise, all of it ended in a single devastating day. Everyone thought Chuck Norris would live on forever. But death chose the exact moment when he seemed happiest, when his life finally looked complete, and took it all away in the blink of an eye. If you're already feeling the pain of what was stolen from Chuck and Gina, hit that like button and subscribe to Hollywood Files right now. Chapter 2, The Gadolinium, 2017. Incident: a slow death stalking the entire family. The nightmare began in silence, like a lethal poison injected straight into the bloodstream with no one noticing. In 2017, Gina Norris, the wife of action legend Chuck Norris, walked into an MRI room believing it was just a routine medical procedure. 3 scans in 8 days, 3 injections of gadolinium, a heavy metal contrast agent, slipped into her body. And from that moment, a slow death began devouring the entire Norris family. Gina recounted the horror with a trembling voice and tear-filled eyes, as if the memories were still burning her alive. "I felt like my body was on fire. It wasn't normal pain. It was a scorching, burning pain, like someone was pouring molten acid through my veins in every single cell. At first, it was just a racing heart and strange fatigue. Then the pain spread everywhere, her arms, legs, back, chest, as if thousands of flaming needles were stabbing through her. Her hair fell out in clumps, thick strands dropping onto the floor. Her skin became dry, tight, and painful. And the worst part, her memory started vanishing. She forgot her own daughter's name. She forgot family stories she had told 100 times. Gina, the strong woman who had stood by her husband through every storm in Hollywood, now lay helpless in bed, crying because she no longer recognized her own face in the mirror. "I wasn't me anymore," she whispered. "I was being destroyed from the inside out." Chuck Norris, the iron-willed man, the symbol of strength and unbreakable will, completely broke down. He canceled every filming schedule, dropped every commitment. For months, he stayed at the hospital 24/7 by his wife's side. He taught himself medicine like a man possessed. Hundreds, even thousands of medical documents piled up on his desk. He read until his eyes were bloodshot, until he was exhausted, all in a desperate attempt to save the woman he loved more than life itself. There were late nights when Gina's pain became so unbearable she would convulse. Chuck would hold her tightly, tears streaming down his weathered face. He whispered into her ear, his voice cracking, "If they hurt you, I will never forgive them. I'll fight until the end, even if I have to take on the whole world." Their 2 daughters witnessed everything. Dakota later recalled with a choked voice, "I saw Dad cry for the first time in my life. Dad, the man who never bowed to any enemy on screen, was crying like a child because he felt completely powerless. That was the most terrifying moment I've ever seen." But Gina's physical torment was only the surface. Beneath it lay an even darker, more terrifying shadow. Chuck began receiving anonymous emails, cold, direct threats. "Stop if you don't want your family to get hurt. Stay quiet or things will get much worse." He read them over and over, his fists clenched so tight his knuckles turned white. Who sent them? Why? He became deeply suspicious that Gina wasn't the only victim. Thousands of other people were being silenced. Giant pharmaceutical companies and parts of the medical system were deliberately covering up the truth about gadolinium, a toxin they still advertise as safe. He started investigating. The deeper he dug, the more terrified he became. Gadolinium didn't leave the body the way they claimed. It accumulated in the brain, in the bones, in the organs. It caused gadolinium deposition disease, a condition that mainstream medicine at the time either denied or stayed silent about. Gina was not an isolated case, but the voices of the victims were systematically suppressed. And then came the most horrifying thought of all. 9 years later, that very same poison may have indirectly killed Chuck. Or perhaps someone used it to finish the job. That sentence felt like a knife twisting in the heart. Was Chuck's death years later not entirely natural? Had someone wanted to silence the man who dared to expose one of the dirtiest secrets in the medical industry? Or had the gadolinium simply kept eating away at the whole family, from Gina to Chuck, destroying them physically and mentally? Gina lay in her hospital bed, her body burning like hellfire, her limbs shaking uncontrollably. Chuck sat beside her, holding her hand tightly, but he knew the truth. This was no longer just Gina's battle. This was a war against their entire family. Their daughters had to watch their parents fall apart day by day. The house that once rang with laughter was now filled with the heavy atmosphere of hospitals and invisible fear. They spent millions of dollars on alternative treatments, from chelation therapy to remove heavy metals from the body to stem cell treatments in China. Gina had to leave Texas and fly halfway around the world just to chase a faint glimmer of hope. Every treatment brought excruciating pain. Every spark of hope was crushed when the pain returned, even more brutal than before. Chuck, the man who had defeated hundreds of enemies on screen, now faced an invisible enemy, one with no smell, no taste, no shape, a toxin approved by the FDA and injected into millions of people every year. Death didn't come in a dramatic explosion like in action movies. It came slowly, quietly, and cruelly. It gnawed at memory, at health, at love, and at trust. It turned a once happy family into broken shadows filled with pain, fear, and suspicion. And even now, that death is still lurking. Not just for Chuck, but for the entire Norris family since 2017. It had arrived, and it never left. Smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. Chapter 3: Hollywood's Dark Secrets and the Old Ghost That Haunted Him. To the world, Chuck Norris was the ultimate American hero, the invincible karate champion turned movie star who always delivered justice with a roundhouse kick and an unbreakable moral code. But only Gina truly knew the man behind the legend. She knew how deeply he had wandered into Hollywood's rotten underbelly, the kind of darkness that never truly leaves you. Over the years, Chuck had only shared fragments with her, small, terrifying pieces he couldn't carry alone. It usually happened on those quiet nights back in Texas, when the house was still and the weight of what he had seen finally became too heavy. After long days on set or those suffocating late-night industry dinners in Los Angeles, Chuck would come home, his face exhausted but his eyes haunted by something far darker. He and Gina would sit together on the couch in the dim lamplight, and he would speak in a low, almost broken whisper. "Honey, tonight I heard names I wish I could scrub from my brain." He told her about powerful producers and studio executives casually discussing financing deals that had nothing to do with movies. He spoke of politicians whose hands were deep in Hollywood's pockets, offshore accounts overflowing with dirty money, and shadowy organizations that most Americans had never even heard of. Things so vile, they made even the toughest man from rural Oklahoma fall silent and stare into his coffee, jaw clenched. Chuck wasn't naive. After decades in the business, he knew Hollywood wasn't just about making action films. It was a ruthless machine built on power, blackmail, silence, and secrets. Secrets that could destroy lives. And he had heard far too many of them. By early 2024, something inside Chuck finally snapped. The man who had spent his entire life fighting evil on screen could no longer stay quiet. One quiet evening, he looked Gina straight in the eyes, his voice steady but heavy with resolve. "I have to speak out, honey, not for me, for you and the kids. If I don't protect this family now, who the hell will?" That decision changed everything. Just weeks later, Chuck and Gina packed up their lives and moved more permanently to their private oceanfront home on the north shore of Kauai, Hawaii. To the outside world, they called it a peaceful retirement in paradise. But Gina knew the truth. They were running. They were trying to escape the old ghosts that had begun circling closer than ever. At first, the island felt like a sanctuary. The twins visited often. Chuck still trained every morning under the golden Hawaiian sun, his kick still sharp, his spirit still fierce. But the peace was an illusion. Gina remembers one blood-chilling night, just 3 months before the end. The phone rang after midnight. Chuck answered it in his study. From the bedroom, she couldn't hear every word, but the tone was ice cold and venomous. When he finally returned to bed, his face was ashen. He pulled Gina into his arms, holding her so tight she could barely breathe, and whispered against her hair. "They said if I open my mouth, you and the kids will be next." He refused to tell her who they were. He only called them the old ghosts. From that night on, Chuck became hyper-vigilant. He checked every lock twice. He scanned the horizon longer than usual from the porch. And he spent hours writing frantically in that small black notebook he kept hidden from everyone, even from her. Then came the morning of March 18th, 2026, the last normal morning they would ever share. Chuck was in his element on the private training ground near their home. The sun was rising in a blaze of gold over the rugged coastline, palm trees swaying gently in the warm trade winds. At 7:42 a.m. Hawaii time, he called Gina. His voice was strong, playful, full of that classic Chuck Norris fire. "Honey, I just finished my rounds. Legs still kick like I'm 30. Don't worry about me. I'm good." Gina could hear the ocean waves crashing in the background and the steady rhythm of his breathing. When she told him to take it easy, he laughed that warm, deep chuckle she loved so much. "Easy is for quitters," he said. Then right before hanging up, his voice suddenly dropped into a serious whisper that sent a chill down her spine. "But they're watching me, honey. They're still watching." Those were the last words Gina would ever hear from her husband while he was still fully himself. Less than 4 hours later, Chuck Norris collapsed during what should have been a simple cool-down walk. There was no dramatic warning, no clutching of the chest like in the movies, just a sudden, terrifying drop that shattered their world forever. Paramedics raced through the winding roads of Kauai, sirens tearing through the peaceful tropical morning. By the time Gina boarded the first flight from Texas with the twins rushing to join her, the news was already exploding across the world. But behind the scenes, something far darker was unfolding. The hospital sealed Chuck's medical records with shocking speed within just 4 hours of his arrival. Doctors worked in near total silence. The family later discovered that the physician who signed the official death certificate the next morning was suddenly transferred off the island that same night. The staff members who first reached Chuck were ordered not to speak to anyone. It all felt coldly orchestrated, as if someone had been waiting and preparing for this exact moment for a very long time. Chuck knew too much. That's what Gina has come to believe with every fiber of her broken heart. He had uncovered disturbing details about the dark money flowing through certain Hollywood studios, hundreds of millions moving through offshore accounts, connected to powerful organizations that operated far beyond the public eye. He had linked names from those tense late-night dinners to people who would do anything, absolutely anything, to keep their secrets buried. The same man who had fought like a lion to save Gina during the 2017 gadolinium nightmare had now become a threat simply because he refused to look away. And then there's the theory that still sends ice through Gina's veins every single time she thinks about it. Could someone have slipped something into his food that morning? Or even into the C-Force bottled water that Chuck and Gina proudly produced from the pure springs on their Texas ranch? The same water he always promoted as clean, strong, and American-made, just like my kicks. The thought that something meant to bring health and strength may have been weaponized against him feels like the ultimate, cruelest betrayal. His death came so fast, it barely left room for questions. One moment, he was laughing on the phone, still training like a man half his age. The next morning, March 19th, 2026, Chuck Norris slipped away, surrounded by his devastated family. But the lightning-fast cover-up, the sealed records, the immediate transfer of staff, the strange refusal of a full autopsy made it feel far less like a natural passing and far more like a planned execution. Chuck's death was not random. It was the final warning, a brutal, devastating message delivered in the cruelest way possible. Stay silent, or your family pays the ultimate price. The old ghost that had haunted him for years had finally caught up with him. In the island paradise they thought would protect them, Hollywood's darkest secrets claimed the unbreakable man once and for all. Like this video and subscribe to Hollywood Files. The old ghosts are still out there. Stay with us. The darkest part is coming. Chapter 4. The day death came, and Chuck's final whisper. The morning of March 18th, 2026 started like so many others in paradise. The sun rose golden over Kauai's rugged coastline, painting the sky in soft pinks and oranges. Palm trees swayed gently in the trade winds as Chuck Norris stepped onto his private training ground near the North Shore home he loved so much. At 86 years old, he was still built like a fortress. Sweat glistened on his forehead as he moved through his familiar drills, shadow boxing, light kicks, breathing steady and strong. He was laughing, cracking jokes on the phone with an old sparring partner. "Still got it, old man?" his friend teased. Chuck's deep voice boomed with that signature confidence. "Don't count me out yet. Legs still kick like I'm 30. That call at 7:42 a.m. Hawaii time would be the last time Gina heard her husband sound truly happy. He told her, "Honey, I just finished my rounds. Don't worry about me. I'm good." She could hear the ocean waves crashing in the background and the playful energy in his voice. He laughed when she reminded him to take it easy. "Easy is for quitters," he said warmly. Then right before hanging up, his tone dropped. "But they're watching. They're still watching." Less than 4 hours later, everything shattered. Chuck collapsed during what should have been a simple cool-down walk. No warning, no dramatic clutch to the chest like in the movies. Just a sudden, terrifying drop that left him fighting for his life. Paramedics raced through the winding island roads, sirens tearing through the tropical calm. Chuck was rushed to the nearest hospital where doctors swarmed around him. Monitors beeped urgently as his heart fell into chaos. Gina got the call while she was still in Texas. Her world stopped. She boarded the first flight she could, heart pounding the entire way. The twins, Dakota and Danny Lee, now in their mid-20s, rushed to the airport too. Both girls cried silently through the entire flight, clutching each other's hands, praying their father would still be fighting when they landed. When they finally reached the hospital, the scene was devastating. Chuck lay in that sterile room, surrounded by machines and the people who loved him most. Gina rushed to his bedside and grabbed his hand. His grip was still surprisingly strong. He looked straight into her eyes. One last clear, piercing look, and whispered the words that would haunt her forever. They never let go, but you have to keep punching, honey. Keep fighting. Those were Chuck Norris's final words. The death came with brutal speed. From the moment he collapsed until he slipped away peacefully the next morning, on March 19th, 2026, it was only 18 hours. Just 18 hours to end a life that had seemed unbreakable for 86 years. And in that short time, the cover-up began almost immediately. The hospital sealed his medical records within 4 hours. The doctor who signed the death certificate was transferred off the island that very same night. When the family asked for a full autopsy, they were quietly denied. Natural causes, they were told. Case closed. It felt as if someone had been waiting and prepared for this exact moment, ready to bury the truth before questions could even be asked. Chuck was gone in just 18 hours, and they wanted to bury the truth right along with him. The man who had survived wars, Hollywood battles, and 6 world karate titles was gone in less than a day. But his final whisper wasn't a goodbye. It was a battle cry from a man who had never learned how to quit. Chapter 5. The funeral, the legacy, and the family's unbreakable grief. The pain didn't end with Chuck's last breath. It only grew heavier. First came the private sunrise ceremony on Kauai on March 22nd. Only 30 people, family and a handful of lifelong friends, gathered on the same path where Chuck had trained that final morning. His body, wrapped in the American flag he had loved his whole life, was carried gently by his sons. A pastor read from the worn Bible Chuck kept by his bed, the one filled with handwritten notes about courage and justice. As the sun rose over the Pacific, they scattered some of his ashes into the ocean, while a lone bagpiper played Amazing Grace. Gina stood at the water's edge, tears streaming down her face. She took Chuck's favorite black belt, the one that symbolized a lifetime of discipline, and gently placed it on the waves. "You trained your whole life for this moment," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Now go kick down heaven's door." A few weeks later, on April 5th, came the public memorial in Houston, Texas. Over 3,000 people filled the massive church where Kickstart Kids held its annual galas. The parking lot overflowed. Sylvester Stallone flew in, along with Jean-Claude Van Damme, Texas Governor Greg Abbott, and martial artists from around the world. People wore Old Walker, Texas Ranger t-shirts and black belts. Giant screens played clips of Chuck's most powerful roundhouse kicks in his famous "When the law fails, justice prevails" monologue. Stallone stood at the podium, voice thick with emotion. Chuck didn't just play a hero, he was one. But the most powerful moment came when Gina stepped up. She stood tall, eyes red, but voice steady. Then their daughter Dakota read a letter that broke everyone's heart. "Dad, we will keep kicking for you." Chuck left behind an estate worth $70 million, but money was never the point. A huge portion went to Kickstart Kids, the charity he founded in 1990 that has already helped over 120,000 children learn discipline and respect. The foundation announced a $15 million endowment in his name, but hidden in the will was a special clause: Part of that money was earmarked specifically for medical accountability investigations, a quiet nod to the gadolinium nightmare, and now, many believe, to investigating Chuck's own death. He also left behind that mysterious black notebook. Gina has sworn she will open it. Yet the deepest pain lives inside the walls of the Lone Wolf Ranch in Texas. Every morning, Gina still sets 2 coffee mugs on the counter. One black, no sugar, exactly how Chuck liked it. She stares at the empty mug for a long time before pouring anything. Sometimes she talks to the empty chair. "You promised you'd never leave me alone with the sunrise." The twins, Dakota and Danielle, sit on the living room floor surrounded by old photo albums, tracing their fingers over pictures of their dad lifting them onto his shoulders when they were little. They still train every day, but now every punch comes with tears. "Every time I throw a kick," Dakota says, "I feel like I'm doing it for him, and it hurts so much I can barely breathe." The grandkids run through the house calling, "Grandpa, Grandpa," before they suddenly remember and freeze in the hallway, their small faces crumpling with confusion and pain. Chuck's death took away the husband, the father, and the grandfather, but it could never take away the fire he left behind. That fire still burns in the family he built, in the children he taught to stand tall, and in the millions of fans who refuse to let his legend die. Gina wipes her tears and looks straight into the camera with raw determination. "Chuck, you were my hero and the world's. Rest easy now. I'll keep fighting for you. The truth can't stay buried forever." Gina stares directly into the camera, her voice firm and unbreakable. "Chuck, I promise you, your death will not be buried in silence. Truth will kick harder." Now it's your turn. If you believe Chuck Norris's death was not natural, comment truth or murder below. Like this video if you want Gina to keep speaking out. Share it with every Chuck Norris fan you know. The fight isn't over. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss part 3. This is speculation based on Gina's statements and family sources. We deeply respect the family's grief. The fight isn't over. Part 3 coming soon.